Good morning. I don't really know if this is going to count as an episode or just a video that I'm going to post on X and on my Instagram and TikTok. But either way, I felt like I had to say one more face to face, if you will, goodbye to my audience. I have decided to, at least for now, end the podcast. It is a rather abrupt decision, came out of nowhere. I talked about it on my podcast. When did I record that? Oh, was that Monday morning? It's already Wednesday now. So had an interesting weekend. Was highly influenced by a conversation I had with someone over the weekend, and it really had an effect on my life because here I am 2, 3 days later saying, you know what, I am going to stop the podcast. And as I said, so I don't really feel the need to address any of the substantive politics, um, or or really anything about the podcast itself. Again, I discussed it last episode, and you can listen to that for kind of my final thoughts. But really, what I just wanted to do here was just acknowledge that it is abrupt, that I have been doing this for 5 years, and that it's a part of my routine. Let alone how much I do enjoy it, let alone also how much positive stuff I think I can do, not only for myself, but I do think I have some ability to 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 do this, to podcast, to bring guests on, to continue doing that, shining a light on their work and continuing to learn myself. I think that's a good thing, and I think I'm decent at it. Um, but it's just, I guess that you have to make a choice at a certain. No, you don't have to make a choice at a certain point. You could always continue to have 2 feet, 1 foot here, 1 foot there, and be pursuing this on the side. You could always do that, and there's no reason that I had to stop. But when you put all the things together with the advice I got, with where I'm at, and I talked about this in the last episode, but you put it all together, and I said, you know what? It does feel right. And as I've been saying on Twitter the last 24 hours, it does feel right. No more chasing answers publicly. No more chasing a career in media. Okay, do I believe it could happen? Yeah, but and so does it kind. So part of this always was not having pursued the arts or any creative outlet as a kid. I mean, I did as a teenager. I played a lot of guitar, but I was depressed for a lot of my adult life, my young adult life especially, and I really suppressed a lot of my interests and talents and hobbies. And so by the time I ended up in law school studying critical race theory, itching to talk about it, the podcast came into my life, and it was really an outlet creatively, intellectually as well. And it's been an important part of my life, and I've grown a lot during I mean, seriously, I've grown more in the last 5 years, coincidentally, not because of the podcast, I think, but it just so happens to be that I've basically been documenting the biggest 5 period growth spurt in my life, which is kind of cool. And so, again, not to talk about the podcast other than to say, because I did that last episode, other than to say, it's been so meaningful. I haven't been perfect, I've made mistakes, but it's been largely positive for me, and I hope for other people. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss the connection with the audience. I'm going to miss the feedback. I'm going to miss feeling like I am helping dissect this current political environment that is tricky and deceptive. And it really helps to have someone who's been behind the veil, like I have in law school. So I'll continue commenting on X from time to time and chiming in because I don't want to disappear, because there's no point in falling off the face of the earth. And I don't want to feel like I'm sitting on the sidelines if I see an opportunity to provide value as a commentator. But I do kind of, for the moment, like the idea of being done with the podcast. No pressure, no guests, no structure, no routine. And again, like I said, this is the one thing I will say about the podcast, repeating from last episode, is that I never really put the work in to make it anything more than a hobby that I got enjoyment from, and I did. So it's not like I'm putting all these hours in and producing these videos and scripts and not getting the return. No, I do believe that if I'd put that effort into it, I probably would have skyrocketed in the podcast field, but it's not what I was trying to do, and it's not what I'm doing now. And this is a good stopping point. Not literally right now, but I'm saying for the podcast, let's put a bow on it. We did Searching for Political Identity for 4 years. We did the Brian Escow Show for 1 year. We did something very strange for us. I'm speaking in strange pronouns now, but possessive or plural rather. But I did something strange. I voted for a Republican, and not only a Republican, but Donald Trump. So after a lifetime of voting for Democrats, Obama, Hillary, and Joe, not only did I start the podcast, but I did something crazy, right? I voted for Trump, and I stood in the face of the oncoming wind. Some people would say to a crazy degree, to a point where you are in a cult now, Brian, because I said, no, I'm standing by my vote. I'm not blowing with the breeze now just because there's some blowback on some serious blowback potentially. So I talked about this in the last episode. I'm not going to rehash the podcast too much or the politics. I did address all of this last week. So I did something different. I was public about it. I made mistakes. It's not to say I did the right thing, but I tried to handle myself with integrity. I really did. I tried. Didn't always do it. I succumbed to dopamine. You know, I probably lost myself a little bit at times, trying to chase fame, trying to chase clout. So there's things I'm not proud of, but by and large, I am proud of the last 5 years. Um, I took a stand. I used my voice, and I am ending it on a hopefully a note of humility. Hopefully, I've kept a humble vibe throughout, but definitely want to end it here and say that yeah, I went through some things publicly. I grew. I shared. And I'm kind of phasing down a little bit out of that into a different phase. Now I've got a wife, got kids on the way, the whole thing. I talked about this last episode. So now I'm just repeating myself. But just want to thank you all for being with me throughout however long you've been following. The journey's never over, right? In life, in politics, I would think too, but especially in life. So who knows what the future brings for any of us. But for now, I'm going to be focusing on my private life mostly and my family. Not to say I'll be silent on X, but no more podcasts. Be focusing on my family, my career, and my other hobbies, which include getting back into music. If you weren't already aware, I am kind of playing guitar like a madman again. And so if you want to see kind of continue following my creative journey to the extent that that's what you've been interested in, I have an Instagram, I have a TikTok, and just type my name, and we'll see if Rick Rubin, see if I can land an interview. No, that's the old reflex kicking in. Well, if I can network with Rick Rubin's assistant, and then I can talk to him about audio engineering. Okay, what? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But this is great. My dad is an artist. He's an accomplished composer, and his accolades are actually coming in just now. He's at the beginning of his late stage of his career where he's getting recognized for his work. So he's feeling great. He's a talented guy, and the podcast always was a differentiator for me. How do I explore myself, develop myself, and then of course differentiate myself from my dad? I'm born on his birthday. We have a lot in common, intellectually, creatively. We're not the same, and even if I come back to sharing political opinions with him, even if I'm now doing music like he's interested in, and even though we've got so much in common, including a birth date, we're not the same. And I love him. And I think maybe at core, that's what the podcast was about. Now, look, I wasn't thinking about my daddy issues when I was in class. Don't get me wrong. It's not purely like a psychology case here, but there was definitely a psychological component to the whole thing. And so much of that has been resolved, not resolved, but large, there's been a lot of progress on that front as well. So, I'm in a great place, and I'm just so grateful that I've had the opportunity to share with you, to grow with you. And again, thank you for following along, and I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.